Hey, welcome to the live stream, take two. Just watched the X-Men 97 debut, the first two episodes. This is our first live stream, by the way, so I want to thank everyone for liking and subscribing so we can actually do a live stream. I actually enjoyed the X-Men 97 cartoon. I went in there very cautious and not wanting to get my heart broken. I just watched the original series, which I adore so much. I know so many people love that, and they grew up on it, and I was just hoping that they would not destroy it, or I guess just take advantage of their IP, Disney, to kind of exploit our nostalgia for it. And I don't think they did. I think they honored the original show very, very well. The animation looks hyper polished, I'll put it that way. It's very squeaky clean, as opposed to the original one, which was a little bit grittier, which I prefer. But overall, I think they did exceptionally well, honoring the original one and continuing on with the story, which is pretty original and doesn't rely too heavily on picking up where the last one left off. They do pick up where it left off, but they've changed a few things around. We don't do spoilers on this channel, so I'll keep it vague, but Magneto looks a little bit different. Magneto being my favorite X-Men character. Thanks to my wife for getting me the shirt. I love Magneto so much. We're going to talk about him more in a minute, but they changed his look up a little bit. I would say I don't know how I feel about it, but I do, and I don't like his costume. But the costume doesn't really have anything to do with the plot. The plot I like. There hasn't been any overt or ham-fisted moral lecturing or political garbage. So that's what everyone was afraid of when they announced this, that it was going to be, politicized. And it's not so far, and it's like an hour in. The episodes are a little bit longer than the original one, at 26 minutes as opposed to 22. So we've watched a good 45 minutes of the show already, and they haven't really gotten into any polarizing garbage. So that in and of itself is a win. The animation style, I think, is fine. It looks very polished and very clean and nice, which I guess they have to do in the modern era, so I'll accept it. And also, the fight scenes look so spectacular. It looks like Dragon Ball Super. So I don't know if you're in Dragon Ball or the continuation of Dragon Ball Super, but I really, really loved Super Hero, the Dragon Ball Super movie. So if it's in that vein, then I kind of like it, and the way they do fast motions and just the kind of crazy kinetic fight scenes. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that part. Having said that, there are two fight scenes per episode, and then a bunch of talking, which I'm not the smartest man in the world, and I'm not the most literate man in the world. We just did our first literary review on this channel, and we will do more of them. But if it's a kid's cartoon, I would like to see some fighting. I want the feeling of having all of the action figures together and just making them click and clack and fighting against each other. So there's so far very little of that, but I think they're going to build up into some more huge scale battles, and hopefully it looks just as good as the other fight scenes we've seen so far. I want to get into not specifics of the show, because we're not going to spoil anything if you haven't seen the show. It just came out today, so I'm not assuming everybody has seen both episodes, and I'm assuming not everyone rewatched the entire X-Men cartoon show like I did, but I'm very lucky to have that opportunity to do that. You should totally watch the original series, by the way. Even the 5th season. This X-Men 97, I do recommend it so far. But so I've been burned, though, because I watched True Detective this season, and I thought it was going to be great. And I was profoundly disappointed in True Detective, but this seems promising. I hope it maintains that momentum and it just goes off in a wonderful, amazing directions. But let's talk about Magneto. Can we talk about Magneto? Oh my gosh. I grew up on the original show, and when I was 6 years old, the show kind of scared me. Because I was little, and it had this kind of gritty animation, and it was not hyper violent. There's no blood really, but it was just a darker tone of a kids show than I was used to. And I like Batman the Animated Series, but that partially because of its animation and because of its talking about Batman, it does get into somewhat serious themes and tones, but it's really just the isolation of Bruce Wayne, and then they touch on that kind of stuff as a recurring motif for the Batman animated series. Which, as I talk about it, I'm getting nostalgic. I'm gonna have to rewatch the whole show now. But X-Men goes deep. They dive deep for a kids cartoon. It dives very deep, talking about like the isolation of Beast and Rogue's personal problem with not being able to have any kind of intimate connection with anybody, and then Magneto. My goodness, they really get into his unique position as one of the most powerful beings in the world, while also this incredibly isolated and misunderstood, but also very multi-dimensional character. Like I do love one-dimensional characters when they're silly and fun, like on The Simpsons. But Magneto, one second. Magneto is not that. Him and Xavier and even like Rogue and Wolverine, there's layers to these characters, and there's different tones, and just you never know what you're gonna get when the episode features them, because it could be this huge scale epic battle, or it could be this very small scale personal introspective type of thing where they're battling their own demons. And it was compelling drama throughout. My wife pointed out, and she's right, it sounds like a soap opera. So X-Men 97, it's got some soap opera elements in there, and that's perfectly fine because the original series had that stuff as well. And in this setting of fantastic characters with crazy magic powers and mutant powers, there are both, by the way. I mean, look at Juggernaut. So, it's compelling drama to see soap opera tropes played out with these incredible, I don't say farcical, but we'll just say fantastic. These fantastic or uncanny characters. Magneto being my absolute favorite. I don't consider him a hero or a villain because he can be either depending on his mood or the setting of the story. He's such a wonderful and rich character. He's absolutely my favorite X-Men. I feel like this is as good a time as any to mention. I hate Cyclops. And I don't know if we're supposed to or not, or if it's like a failing in my character, because I'm not perfect, but oh my gosh, I consider Cyclops a villain. He is, to me, throughout the original series, they're continuing on with the same character in this one, just in general. Oh, and the movies, of course. He is a tool. He embodies the absolute worst aspects of all human character and mutant character. Like, anybody just in general who obsessively and aggressively follows the rules, but then monitors everybody else to make sure that they're following the rules. Anybody who has this duplicitous, craven mentality of, oh, we should work as a team so long as you all do what I say, and that's what makes it a team. That's nauseating. And just to see Cyclops presented in that way, I feel like certain people, myself among them, are just going to look at that and despise that kind of character and that kind of leadership because he's so dumb and also so belligerent and he is just, I don't know. It must be a personal failing of mine to not respect authority, but this kind of self-appointed authority. I do not like Cyclops, and I love Magneto, so I am one of those people. Having said that, the show is good, and I thought it would be bad, so I'm delighted that I'm wrong. That moves us on to James Bond. So, Aaron Taylor Johnson may or may not, but almost certainly will be the next James Bond. And we just reviewed all of the Bond movies around Christmas time last year. I absolutely adore James Bond. It's probably my favorite movie franchise. My dad loved those movies, and I grew up watching them with him. And it's a silly series of movies but it's endured so long that it becomes important, like to dorks like myself who've seen every movie except for the most recent one, which I just ran out of care. Sometimes you just don't want to. Sometimes you just don't want to watch the latest installment of it because I don't know, maybe the previous one was so bad, which Spectre was terrible. So enough said about that. Moving on. The new James Bond is probably going to be Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I don't love. I'm not a fan of the dudes at all, so I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping he proves me wrong and all the other haters and naysayers who don't think he's the right guy for the job. I hope he does a great job. He seems he could kick my ass, I'm sure. So maybe he can kick some ass in these movies. I wanted Idris Elba to be Bond, and I think they have the studio and the people who run the franchise have waited long enough to where they don't have to cast him anymore. So I guess they won their little war of attrition. Chiwetel Ejiofor would have been perfect, but you know who's perfect and could do it right now is Henry Goulding. Henry Goulding is the perfect actor to play James Bond, and for that reason alone, he's never going to get the part. It would be so awesome to see him undercover on crazy missions all over the world for like 4 or 5 movies, and they're not going to do it. And I am not surprised, but I'm still disappointed in all of show business in general. Now, I hope the next Bond movie is good. I honestly hope they do something radically different. Like Quentin Tarantino famously had an idea of setting it in the 60s, which would be perfect because it's a post-World War II Cold War character. Like that's where he thrives, and I think that would be perfect. And if they do that with Aaron Taylor Johnson as this, ass-kicking, kind of vintage vibe hero, and you get Christopher Nolan to direct it, then yeah, it's gonna be good. I hope it's good, and I hope whoever they get to be the director, and ultimately whoever they get to be Bond, is the right choice, or at least they do a passably decent job, because I didn't know who Daniel Craig was before he got cast for Casino Royale, before he was Bond, and I had seen Munich. I just forgot who he was. There's a lot of people in Munich, and Eric Bana's badass, and side note, Eric Bana could have been a great James Bond, but I didn't think Daniel Craig was going to be a great choice either. And then he actually was. He was a great Bond for the couple movies where they did a good job of it. So it's not like he wrote Spectre. It's not like he directed Spectre, so it's not his fault. Ditto, Aaron Taylor Johnson, I haven't seen Bullet Train or probably a couple of the other movies that he's really famous for. I've only really seen Kick-Ass, and that's probably not a fair judgment of his abilities, so not a huge fan of those movies either, by the way. But I hope he does a good job because I doubt he's the right choice for Bond, so I hope I'm proven wrong and we get an excellent movie out of it. Speaking of hoping for an excellent movie, Deadpool 3. Rumor mill. This is not rumor control, and I do not have the facts, so it's all speculation and stuff. But I've heard Hugh Jackman and Henry Cavill will be playing Wolverine in the Deadpool 3 movie, which to me immediately, if that is true, that stinks of multiverse, which I hate the multiverse idea. I hate the multiple dimension idea. I'm sure most people who go to the movies are sick of this idea because it's just lazy writing. Having said that, it offers the opportunity to show different actors who did not get the part playing the part, at least in part, like Nicolas Cage in Flash, which is why that movie is universally beloved and will go down as a classic. Nicolas Cage would have been a decent Superman, even though that sounds ridiculous and laughable. So I'm hoping Henry Cavill is in Deadpool 3 as Wolverine, and they do something wildly unexpected or imaginative. Now, imaginative is not the first word that comes to mind when I'm thinking of Disney and their upcoming projects, but you never know. They did Moana, and Moana's pretty recent. So once in a while they'll pull a Coco or an Encanto out of the magic hat, and it'll just remind us that, oh right, they actually have some brilliant people there in the basement or something. So Deadpool 3 I have high hopes for, and I'm sure it'll make its money back. I'm sure that's pretty much guaranteed to crack like 500 million. So I hope it didn't cost anywhere near that, like a Gladiator 2, which is probably going to be awful and is definitely overpriced, but that's just how it goes with big projects now. I do recommend X-Men 97. I have high hopes for the future of James Bond, since they seem to have killed the character, and I thought they were just going to leave him dead, but they're going to bring him back with a whole new guy. Hopes for that, and I'm more hopeful for Deadpool 3, which I think will probably be pretty great. I really hope they stop at 3, by the way. There has never been a fourth installment that I think was good. We've covered Twilight, we've covered Underworld, I haven't reviewed Lethal Weapon 4, all the 4, Superman 4, we haven't reviewed that either, but it's just garbage. So I'm hoping they stop it with a trilogy of Deadpool movies. And on that note, we're going to stop this live stream. Thank you guys so much. Anyone who's ever liked, commented, you don't even have to comment something positive. I just appreciate you watching and commenting. So thank you so much, and you guys have a good one.